Thank you, Rita, for welcoming me and for giving me this opportunity. Hello to everybody. I'm happy to be here. So my name is already programmed, Isabella Dufour-Baumgartner, 3 languages, typically European. My first name is Italian. Then my Dufour is the name of my husband, French, and Baumgartner as the guy who jumped in the air. I don't know if you heard about it. Could be my cousin. He isn't, but anyway, it's German. Yeah. So, first of all, engineers all over the world. The question for me was always, my father was an engineer, and I never did understand what really was his business or his job. So my first question was, when I prepared this presentation, what is an engineer? I heard the word engine in it. Engine, which means motor, machine, propulsion, so something like go ahead. It's very positive. Yes. Well, this was my impression. Then I went to see on the internet what does it come from. It comes from Latin, ingenium, cleverness, and ingeniare, to contrive, to devise. I was asking myself, what is a typical engineer for me? Just like that. Not my father. I didn't know if he was typical. For me, it was Einstein, Albert Einstein. Just to give you imagine, even though he is not an engineer, you know that. He's mathematician, or he was, okay? But he said very intelligent things anyway. So, then furthermore, I went to see on Wikipedia what would they say about what is an engineer. An engineer is a professional practitioner of engineering, okay, concerned with applying scientific knowledge, mathematics, and ingenuity to develop solutions for mechanical, social, and economic problems. Engineers design materials, structures, and systems while considering the limitations imposed by practical safety and cost. So far, so well. Now, the differences between what is a scientist and what is an engineer. I think it's very important to see the two things which are linked but not the same. So engineers are grounded in applied sciences, and their work in research and development is distinct from basic research focus of scientists. The work of engineers forms the link between scientific discoveries and their subsequent applications to human needs and quality of life. So, now you know what you will work for. Human needs and quality of life. A big program, I would say. It's a philosophical question. What is quality of life? So just ask yourself, you're still studying, what do you focus on? What will you focus on as an engineer? So, now why I came to see you, engineering in Europe. First of all, I would like to test you a little bit. I have a lot of prejudices, and I suppose you have too. I think I know, but I don't know really. Those are prejudices. So, in Europe, we have our prejudices about European, of course, and I will show it to you with a joke. Well, we are telling this joke. So just keep in mind your prejudices about Europeans. what we say. Hell is when the British are the cooks, French are the mechanics, Swiss are the lovers. I can tell that I'm from Switzerland. German are the policemen, Italians for order and organization. So, now you can imagine what is happening. British are the policemen, French are the cooks, Italian the lovers, German are the mechanics, and Swiss for order and organization. Now I imagine you go back to your roots, and then you find whatever you want. Okay. So, one of my prejudices about American people was they don't know anything about European geographics. So I said to myself, and me, do I know something about American geographics? And so I just asked myself, what is the capital of Mississippi State? And of course I didn't know it. I had to go on the internet once again, and I saw it's Jackson. Now I know it, I learned something. Then I thought, well, that was too hard for me to start, so easier. It should be easier for me to find out the capital of Illinois, because I was sure Chicago. But no, it's not Chicago. You know what it is? Springfield. Well, so now about European geographics. As I'm from Switzerland, do you know what is the capital of Switzerland? Vienna? Vienna is the capital of Austria. Take one out of them. Yeah, good. I'm so happy. Without showing it, you knew it. So really, it was a prejudice I had. You know about European geographics. Good. Just one, you know that, is even not in Switzerland. That's just to try to get you. Okay, so all that just to say you and to say me, we have to be aware of our prejudices. Now that I'm going to present you engineering in Europe, I must be aware of generalizing what I will do, of course, otherwise I cannot say anything. So I will start with some figures and facts. First of all, I will show you a map of Europe. And it's to say you, there are two Europes. There is a political Europe, the European Community, and there is a geographical Europe, which is not really the same. Do you know countries which do not belong to the European Community? Do you have an idea?
European Union, because the United Kingdom is technically the European Union, but it's not within Europe. And on the other side, you have Ukraine is not in the European Union, Belarus is not in the European Union.
The latest Eastern countries, they still are not, but I think one day they will be European. And then you say, right, Great Britain, they always are a little bit apart. And we say, if God puts them on an island, there must be a reason. But two other countries, which are not in European Union. Switzerland, yes. Norway, yes. Norway, they have petroleum. They are too rich, I think, to go in. It's maybe the reason, I mean. And in Switzerland, we have chocolate. Engineering. It's a protected label. When I say a protected label, there must be somebody to protect it. Yes? In the US, you have Abbott. Yes? They really say what is an engineer, what is not an engineer, what can we expect from an engineer. You have in all European countries boards like Abbott who say the same thing about what is an engineer. So you have in France CTI, Commission des titres d'ingénieur. In Germany, you have the ASI, for those who speak German. Is there somebody speaking another language than English? Yes?
It's not here.
It's not European. But anyway, another way of thinking. Good. So, why do we need these boards for? These accreditation boards, they control and guarantee the level. They assure quality. They stimulate innovation and excellence, okay, because they recognize if you are good. They provide value, just because they give a frame, references. They provide value for who? For industry. So they know if we hire an engineer, we know that he is able to, blah, blah, blah. Faculty, they have the frame. We must train our students in order to be able at the end to. And the students, they know what they can expect from the training. And the families, of course, who are behind the students, it's always a good thing when the family know, well, my son, there is no doctor here, my son goes to the university to do engineering, sorry. And so I can expect that at the end he will know that and that and that. So, as all these boards agree on what you can expect from an engineer, I took the criteria of Abbott. I don't know if you know them, what you're supposed to be and to know when you finish your studies. So we will have a look at it. Do you see the color? Yes. Okay. So I put in color the parts which seem to be okay for everybody, but of which I think that we do different things behind the words. Yes? So, for example, C, an ability to design a system, component, or process to meet desired needs within realistic constraints. What are realistic constraints? I'm sure you cannot always agree about that. What is realistic or not? What are ethic constraints? They wouldn't be the same for everybody. So even if everybody agrees on that, on the principle, what we put behind can be different. What for me is very important is B, the ability to function on multidisciplinary teams. That's what writes Abbott. And I add, and on multicultural teams. Of course, that must be possible. When you will go out and work, you will have people from all over the world, and you must work with them, if you want or not. So, for example, a knowledge of contemporary issues. I am sure that if you are not the same generation as another person, you won't think the same of what is contemporary. Okay? So, let's go back to Europe. are involved, students, faculty, and industry. So I start with education and training, which of course, now you are here at the university, education and training will be lifelong, anyway, both of them. That's very important. It's not because you get out of the university that you just can, how do you say, close your brain and say, now I know everything. That's not possible. In Europe, we had a big problem. Every university was free to do the stuff they wanted to do as they wanted to do it. So that means that one university, they made engineers in 4 years. Others, they took 6 years to train them. So it was not only a question of the country, it was really every university was different. So you couldn't understand when you, as a company, when you would hire somebody, you couldn't understand what does it mean. He's an engineer, but I don't know what is behind that. Okay? And European people and everybody felt the need to define it in one way, so that everybody could understand how it works. So the input came from political Europe. And they made different programs, like, I don't know if you have heard about it, Socrates, for example, to exchange students, they give help to know everybody, each other better. And then it was 27 ministers of education. They came together in Bologna, in Italy, in 1999. And they decided now we have really to give a frame for everybody the same. That's what we call the process of Bologna. It's very known under the name L&D as well. L&D means after 18 education, so after high school, if you go to the university for 3 years, then you will get what we call license or bachelor. Everywhere in Europe now. A bachelor, when somebody has a bachelor, engineer or not, then it's after 3 years of studies at least. Then you can add 2 years, and then you have a master's degree. And normally now in Europe, when somebody has an engineering degree, just engineering degree, it's like a master's degree. It's the level of a master. That's even easier to see from outside. And not only for us Europeans to understand, but from outside as well. And then you can add some 3 years at least to get your doctorate. Of course, it was not easy to get to this system. You have, for example, Germany. You had 2 kinds of universities. You had the Fachhochschule, which is the University of Applied Sciences. They gave before their diploma after 4 years. You have the technical universities in Germany. They took 6 years to get a diploma or to give a diploma. So they had to put themselves together and to see how they would structure their engineering diploma to be at 5 years. Then you have Spain. After 3 years, you had your Ingeniero Técnico. Only 3 years. Well, you can see that it's technical engineer. It's not really the same as engineer, shortly. But yes, so in Spain, if you are engineer, you have master's level. In France, it's really very complicated system, I can tell you. When I arrived, I didn't understand anything. They have their special, for engineers I'm speaking, the special system with their class préparatoire, preparatory schools. If you want to be an engineer in France, after high school, you have to go 2 years to preparatory classes. During these preparatory classes, you only do mathematics, physics, chemistry, a little bit of a foreign language, and nothing else. And you would do that at daytime and at nighttime. And you would not play football anymore. You would not go to see your friends anymore. No party. During 2 years, they get just crazy. Really, only these sciences. And what for? Just to prepare the entrance exam for these great schools, we call them, for engineering. To get your great school, you want to get that, okay? Otherwise, you cannot get into an engineering school. So it's 2 years of preparatory classes, and then hopefully you get the school, engineering school you want, which lasts just 3 years, of course. So you have to 5 years still as an engineer. Well, I said it was political Europe who made the input before, but that, of course, the other countries which are not in political Europe, they had to do the same thing. And Norway, it's the same thing. Switzerland, it's the same thing. So, it was hard to get that. Do we have an idea who was the best student to get to this scheme of 5 years? Do you think of prejudice? Even if they are not in Europe or in the European community, they were the best student because it was just a need for them that the students from Switzerland afterwards could get hired everywhere. So, now I'm going to speak about mentalities when you work as an engineer. How does it go on in the companies or in the countries? German-speaking countries, well, they speak German, we will say. But German-speaking countries, if you go to Germany, to Austria, to Switzerland, you speak English, you don't speak German, that's not a problem. People would be delighted to speak with you in English. So they are aware that the language is difficult and not anybody can just speak German, even if it's the most spoken native language in Europe. It's the most important language for Europe, just. So, which are the countries speaking German? Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. The biggest part of Switzerland is German speaking. What is the mentality of a German? Now just activate what you think about German speaking people. Punctual, precise, rigorous, accurate. You can think of that what you want. I just want to present you how is a day organized in a German-speaking country, more or less. You start early in the morning. You get a big breakfast. You need office for the whole day. Then you go to work, of course. You make, perhaps, not always, a short break at noon. You call that Mahlzeit. That means just it's time to eat. Yeah. And then you have an early quitting in the evening, which is called Feierabend. And if you spoke German, you would know that that means it's the evening of celebration or party time. And I think it's interesting if you hear what it means. So German-speaking countries would really make a big difference. I am in work, and now I am outside, and it's party time. Okay? Or eat time, or whatever. The Volkswagen, yes, VW, they even cut emails during the weekend, or they still do it. During the weekend, you cannot go on your emails if you work for Volkswagen. Just to be sure that nobody should have the temptation to go to work or something like that. Okay, and it works. Working hours. Just to get an idea, it's almost all the same. In the US, how many hours do you work a week? 40? Okay, so labor unions. And now I will speak of Germany. I'll speak in German because it changes a little bit everywhere. They are very present and representative. 16.7% in 2007 of the people were in a labor union. They are very constructive. That means that if there is a problem, they will first go and try to find a solution with the company. Discuss a lot, really try everything, and then perhaps if really there is no solution, but normally there is one, they would get on strike. But it's almost never. In Switzerland, you wouldn't even think of striking. It's just impossible. What is the social rank of an engineer in a German-speaking country? As long as you are an engineer, you will always put it on your visit card, on your business card. Even in Austria and in Germany, we would say to you, engineer and your name, never just the name. So it's really important, it's a status. Okay? In Switzerland, less. So it's more. Yeah. The hierarchy within the companies is, but that's true, I would say, for all Europe, the north to the flat. Okay, so you can much easier in northern Germany already, and even more in Scandinavian countries, you are much closer to your head than when you go south, and where you just have to go through an office where is a secretary issuing filters, and you see. So even within Germany, it's like that. In Germany, you have a difference, two kinds to say you. Okay? One is much more polite than the other. And so when you are on work, you will of course always use the more polite. It's difficult for English-speaking people to understand when do I use which form. But even if you are going to speak German, if you learn it, people will hear that it's not your mother tongue, so they automatically will forgive you if you don't say it the right way to say it.
Which one is the right way?
Excuse me?
Which one is the right way?
It depends on the situation.
What's more polite?
The C. So, women engineers, this, I think, or I see here it is the same. As long as it is some scientific studies, there are much less women, female students, and so there will be less female engineers, of course. So it's the same thing in German-speaking countries. Well, I think it's history, which can explain that, but as well, the system in Germany, Switzerland, you don't have cribs, for example. When you want to have a family and to work, it's really difficult for a woman, because it's still the woman who cares about the children normally, to do the same, because there is no help, and a woman is very badly seen when she still works having babies. So it's quite difficult to say, oh, I don't matter about that, I just go on working and give my children to the grandparents or whatever. So, in France, things of course are different. You know, they call themselves the Grande Nation, great nation. French-speaking countries, part of Belgium only, well, France, Luxembourg, a smaller part of Switzerland. Mentality, they say liberté, freedom, égalité, equality, fraternité, no, fraternity or brotherhood. This was with the revolution, yes, and till then it's written on every town hall, everywhere. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. French people are very proud of their culture. That's a good thing. Everybody should be proud of his culture and of their language. So when I say French-speaking countries, it's not the same as in German-speaking countries. When you come to France and you speak English, it might be that even if they understand you, they wouldn't answer you because they're just against. French is the most beautiful language, so you just can learn French. Why didn't you start it? Okay? So a little bit different. Their mentality, very polite, normally. Ingenious. Do you know why they chose a cock as an emblem, you say? Emblem for France? It's the only animal who sings with the pets in the den party. They are always complaining, terrible, and they are very family and fine food centered. That's why it is heaven and French are cooks. So, organization of a day. They start in the morning, won't have really breakfast, just a coffee, perhaps a croissant, but even. And then at noon, they will have a long break. They must have a break. It's in the law, in French law, that you must go out of your office for at least 3/4 of an hour. You aren't allowed to eat in your office or on your working place. Okay? So you must go out, and of course, as nothing is opened, only the restaurants, you go to eat, or you go home, or whatever. But really, between noon and 2 o'clock, everybody is eating. You know perhaps that in the World Heritage of UNESCO, French cuisine is now, has its place, yes, since 2010. So it's really important, yeah. After at least 4 plates, liquors at the end, and the most important, always a glass of wine when you eat. That's normal. I said 1 glass, too much, because afterwards you go back to work. But we really drink wine, yes, it's just normal. Okay, but we don't drink it if we are thirsty, it's just because we like it. There is always water as well, if you are thirsty. Yes, and in the evening, of course, you eat again. You have a late quitting, and then you eat again in the family. Even in my family, when I just would like to give some bread and some cheese for the evening, it's already late, I'm tired or something. My daughters say, we don't eat tonight, so I must cook something. That's like that. So, working hours. Much less, above all in France, than German-speaking countries. Switzerland is the same as in the German-speaking part, and as the German-speaking part is bigger than the French-speaking part, two of them, they must work as the others. So it's not, it's a mistake, it's not 38 in France, it's 35. Very interesting to be hired in France. Then, labor unions. You have labor unions, of course, in France. They are very present and popular. You have less people who really are like that in part of labor unions. But when labor unions hear about perhaps there might be a change of something, just perhaps, we don't really know it yet, but it might be, then strike. It's terrible. It's not good for business, for the country, but it's a fact. You have already children when they are at school, they miss about 1 day per month of the school because the professors are on strike. Because they have heard that perhaps they want to change something for their working conditions. So it's terrible. And when you have kids and they don't go to school, what do you do with the kids? You must stay at home. It's terrible. If you arrive in Paris and there is a strike on public transportation, what do you do if you don't know the city? But, well, that's France as well. Organized, chaotic, yeah. Social rank of an engineer in France. It's a really high rank. It's what we call a notable. So it's the same thing like a priest or a lawyer, or really the high position people. So if you are an engineer, it's a good thing. The hierarchy within companies, they say always equality, égalité. Well, that's still king. Politeness. It's more or less the same as I told you in German. You have a special form of politeness in the language, even if you would use it in a little different way. You know that French, when they are using the tu, which is closer, not so polite, then they would not shake hands to say hello. They would, what we say, give kisses. Yes, always. I don't know if you have heard about it, seen already. That's a French way. Women engineers. That's a different topic. In France, it's normal that a woman works, even if she has got married, even if she has children. It's completely different. There are a lot of possibilities to make look people after your children, and above all, it's normal. People wouldn't say to you, oh, you're a bad mother, you go still working. It's incredible. And so that's why it's one of the reasons we have a lot of female engineering students, and afterwards, of course, they continue. They work as an engineer, and I think that's a good thing. So I moved to France. My husband is French. When I get pregnant the first time in Switzerland, they told me, oh, now you stop working. I said, oh no. Well, when I get pregnant the second time, but now you stop working. I said, no. When I was pregnant the third time, they didn't ask me anymore. But when I came, still very often go to Switzerland, now they are bigger, but when they were smaller, my daughters, then everybody looked at them, oh, they are normal. So just they cannot imagine that you can do both things together. So I would say it's really a good model, the French model, for this kind of things. So there is a need. If you see all these differences just between 2 countries or 3 countries, you see the need of going international for students, for faculty, for industry. The industry wants to sell all over the world, so they have no choice. Just a little reminder of the map of Europe and the world. So going international, one big example for European industry is Airbus. Yes. Airbus, they have the headquarters in Toulouse, quite close to where my university is. It's the headquarters located in France, but people working there are German, they are English people, Spanish people, Italian people, and even from further away. So really international team in Toulouse, and then you have other sites all over Europe. These are the main sites. So that's really an international company. Of course, and it's good for you, language used in such a company is always English, even in France. So, then Airbus, you have opportunities in North America, India, China. The transfer of knowledge now, the A380, they can build it as well in China. So I was just on the side to look what can they offer really. Really a lot to get hired for you as well. And which what is closer to your place, you see, there are some sites now in the United States. But if they hire you, of course, you must have an idea how it works in Europe, right, to be able to work together. And so if they want to hire you, if they see you have an exchange experience, some experience abroad, that would make the difference, of course, with somebody who never went outside the United States. So going international is a must for companies. It's a must for engineers. How can I be international? What is really the key factor that I am better than the other one? We are all human beings, so we are social beings. Okay? And it makes the difference to be hired and to get into a multicultural team if you know how it works elsewhere. So you must know the others and understand the others. How can you know the others really? Understand them? You go on a trip. That's perhaps the first idea, to see a little bit how it works. You go in an immersion, that can be a semester abroad. You read books. They tell a lot about how other people think, how they live, in what conditions they work. important thing is you should be and remain yourself. When you know others better, you will know better yourself. That goes together. And it is very important to be oneself. Not just go there and be like. You will never be like your French. And that's good, because everybody loves you as you are. Okay? So just keep in mind, try to know the others. Go abroad to Albi would be a nice idea. Yes, but stay yourself. Thank you. If you have any question.
How many of you have done study abroad experiences? Anyone? Where was yours?
Stuttgart.
Stuttgart?
Torino.
Sorry.
Torino, Italy.
What companies? Was it study, academic study? or-
Academic study. That's University of Stuttgart. Same as Polytechnical in Torino. Polytechnical.
Okay. How many of you traveled outside the U.S. just on your own? Questions, please.
Or I put down my email. If there are no questions now, just send me an email, and I will be happy to answer you.
Okay, and do you have something scheduled immediately following this?